Hi, everyone, and welcome to our last lesson on sculpting the digestive system with homemade modeling dough. I'm Nicole Hummel. Welcome back. We're continuing our exploration of the digestive system today. As we've been seeing, the digestion is the process of breaking down food so that we can absorb the nutrients, and it's a very intricate system. Last lesson, we sculpted the small intestine and a cross section of the small intestine, showing the different layers that make up the intestinal wall. Our focus today is on the large intestine, or the colon. This is where water absorption happens, not as much nutrient absorption here, but we're absorbing water, we're absorbing electrolytes or ions from the food that's moving through. And it's where waste material is stored before it is defecated as poop. So we're going to take a moment of mindfulness before we begin our sculpting today. And this is so that we can be more fully engaged in this process, more present for the experience of sculpting. So today, for our mindfulness exercise, we're going to practice lengthening our inhales and our exhales. So first, I want you to be able to count in your own mind how long your inhale is. And it can be roughly seconds. You're going to count the inhale and count the exhale. So take a deep breath in. I'm going to try to go for 1 second longer on that inhale. So my inhale was maybe about 3 seconds, and my exhale was maybe about 4 seconds. I'm going to try to make that 4 and 6. So 4 seconds in, 6 out. Let's try that again, doing 4 in and 6 out. 1, 2, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's do one more. And now close your eyes, return to a normal breath. Notice how this feels in your body. I notice that my body feels a lot more calm. My mind feels a lot more calm. So this exercise is great for calming down the nervous system, another system that you could sculpt using the clay. And also for just, calming the mind, calming the body so that we can be more present. Feel free to return to this exercise at any point during our lesson or at any point in life. It's a great practice to be able to return to these mindfulness moments at any point in your day. So our first step as we move into our lesson is going to be organizing our materials. I have my clay from the last lesson. I have my labels, just have little pieces of paper and a pen. And I'm remembering that I need some tape to tape on the labels. And then I have my sculpture from the last time. So I'm going to move my sculpture into the view here so you can see it. We have the whole system that we've done so far, the cross section of the intestinal wall of the small intestine that we did last time. And the small intestine, which ended on this side of the body, which is actually the right side of our body if we feel it in our own body. On our sculpture, it'll be, when you're looking at it, the left side. So we're going to set up our workspace now, moving our clay off to the side, moving our labels off to the side, moving our pen off to the side, and keeping your sculpture right in the center. So moving into sculpting the large intestine, first I'll share just a little bit of information about the large intestine before we move into actually sculpting it. So as I said in my introduction, the large intestine is where it's where all of the absorption of water is going to happen. The large intestine absorbs about 1.5 liters of water per day. That's almost a whole big bottle of soda. Think about, look, the next time you look at something that you're drinking, say a milk or anything, notice how many liters is in that container. It's a lot of 1.5 liters is a lot of water for this intestine to absorb every day. It's also where electrolytes are being absorbed. These are ions that are moving inside of our food that allow our cells to absorb water even better. The large intestine is about 5 feet long, and it's made up of a couple different parts. So we're going to look at a diagram. First, we can look at this diagram of the whole digestive system. We can see here that the small intestine, which is kind of right at the center, connects to the large intestine right down here. Then the large intestine moves up, across, down, across, and finally down and out. Here's another picture that we can look at that isolates just the large intestine, and we can see some of the different parts that we're going to learn about today. So at this connection between the small intestine and the large intestine is the ileocecal valve. This is a valve that only allows the food to move in one direction so that it doesn't go back into the small intestine. And the reason that that's important is because everything that's inside of this large intestine is very different than what's inside of the small intestine. It's made up of different bacteria, and it performs a different role. So we really want everything to be moving in one direction. And so there's a valve that allows things to move into the colon or large intestine and not back the other way. We have the appendix right here. We have the ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon, then rectum and anus at the end. So we are going to be sculpting a lot of this today. One thing that I want you to notice is the texture is really different on the large intestine than it is on the small intestine. The small intestine had a much smoother, more coil-like surface. The large intestine has these sort of bumps. You can see it kind of squeezes and then expands, almost kind of like I don't know what to compare that to, but there's a lot of muscle in here that, again, contributes to that movement so that it doesn't go back. Everything is moving forward and down. These kind of bumps and constrictions and then openings in the colon are called haustra. And they're really helpful for helping that absorption of water and also to prevent things from moving back in the digestive system. So before we sculpt this, I want you to think for a moment about your own body. On this picture and on our sculpture, this goes up, across, down. This is down on the left side of our body. So if you look at this person on the side and for a moment imagine that you're trying to visualize where your own colon or large intestine is. If you reach over to the lower right side of your belly, that is where the large intestine is going to start. That's where it connects to the small intestine. Then it moves up towards that right rib. Then it moves across very close to the rib cage, over to the left kind of bottom rib. Then it moves down and across the bottom of the belly before it moves out and finally out of the anus. So that is our large intestine. Now we get to sculpt it. So we're going to start with sculpting this attachment and the ascending colon right here. And I want you to really think about adding that texture. The hostra is going to be a really cool process, and I think it'll be really fun to do out of clay. So I'm going to start with rolling out a coil. Again, the large intestine is a little bit bigger in diameter than the small intestine. So I'm going to attach it right here. Remember, that's where the ileocecal valve is. And it's going to move up. And it actually moves all the way up to almost where the stomach is. You can look again at that sculpture. See here, it goes all the way up to about level with the stomach, and then the transverse colon droops under the stomach. So I'm going to add a little bit of texture here using my pen. Actually, I'm going to get my pen cap over here, which I really liked for doing texture. So pen cap is kind of cool. You can also use a spoon or toothpick. I'm going to add those hostra, those constrictions. Okay. So that's the ascending colon, the ileocecal valve, which connects to the small intestine. Now I'm going to do, let's see, how about in blue? We'll do the transverse colon. So again, rolling out a coil here. There are lots of more further details we could move into, but we don't really have the time. But here, where the ascending colon meets the transverse colon is called the hepatic flexure or hepatic kind of bend, and hepatic has to do with the liver. So the liver actually is right over here. Well, we won't be doing that one today because we don't really have time, but something fun to explore in your own time if you feel excited about that. So making those little hostra, texture. Okay, so the transverse colon, and then we'll do the descending colon. Attaching it up here. Some of my labels will be a little bit covered up, but that's okay. We were talking about that ileocecal valve over here. That's because the ileum, which was the last part of the small intestine, connects into this very first part of the large intestine, which is the cecum. And so when you say ileocecal, you're talking about the ileum and the cecum, the connection between the two. So there's the descending colon and into the sigmoid colon, which moves kind of at an angle here. And then finally, we'll sculpt the rectum, which we can do, let's see, how about out of blue again? At At this point, there are less of those haustra or constrictions because the rectum is where all of the waste matter from the digestive system. Now that the nutrients have been absorbed, now that the water has been absorbed, it's where all of that waste matter is going to be stored before defecation, before you poop it out. So this final section is kind of a storage area before it exits the body. So now that we've sculpted all of these pieces together and attached them all into our larger sculpture of the body, of the digestive system, we're going to label everything. So I'm going to give you the names and the shape and the locations of the different parts. Maybe you remember. We'll begin with the ileocecal valve. So ileocecal is spelled I-L-E-O-C-E-C-A-L, and then valve, V-A-L-V-E. And we'll put that right here. That's right where that connection is between the small intestine and the large intestine. Then we have the ascending colon, which I've sculpted in purple. So ascending colon is spelled A-S-C-E-N-D-I-N-G. Colon is spelled C-O-L-O-N. Right there. Then we have the transverse colon. T-R-A-N-S-V-E-R-S-E. And then colon, which is C-O-L-O-N. Then we have the descending colon. D-E-S-C-E-N-D-I-N-G. C-O-L-O-N. And then we have the sigmoid colon, which is spelled S-I-G-M-O-I-D, colon, C-O-L-O-N. That's where it kind of curves down. Then we have the rectum, R-E-C-T-U-M. Again, where that storage is happening. And finally, the anus, probably everybody's favorite part to label. There we go. Where finally the waste matter exits the body. So there we go. Now that we have labeled everything, let's review the whole entire digestive system again by looking at our sculpture. So starting at the top, we've got our mouth, the teeth and tongue, which work together, salivary glands, which add enzymes to our food. Our food is ground up and then swallowed, moves down the esophagus. Then it enters the stomach, where it is churned and mixed with various acids and enzymes, again, really further breaking down the food so that it has nutrients that can be absorbed by the rest of the body, so that it's all broken down. Proteins, fats, and carbohydrates are broken down into very small particles. And in the next part of the digestive system, which is the small intestine, they'll be absorbed. So moving from the stomach down into the small intestine, we have the first part of the small intestine, which is called the duodenum, this green one that moves behind that colon at the top. That's, and then it moves into the jejunum, the yellow coil here. Then the ileum, that orange coil. Then we talked when we did this small intestine sculpture, we talked about the cross section of the small intestine, which was really interesting especially because of all these villi, all these like finger-like projections that move to the inside of the intestinal wall to really increase that surface area so that absorption of nutrients can happen. This is where the small intestine is where most of the absorption of the nutrients happen. We talked a lot about how in this second layer, which is the blue, there are blood vessels that basically the nutrients can penetrate the wall, move into the blood, the capillaries, the veins and arteries, so that they can all be transported throughout the body, nourishing the body. There's also a layer of muscle here, and we talked about how the muscle, so here it's represented by the red, and how the length of the small intestine almost doubles after we die because that muscle is no longer contracted. And so interesting to think about because we don't have any awareness of being able to actually contract those muscles. It's all happening very unconsciously with this smooth muscle all across the digestive system that allows the food to move through. So that was the cross section. Then today we talked about the colon, or the large intestine. The small intestine connects into the colon right at the ileocecal valve. We move into the ascending colon, moving up that right side of the body, then across the transverse colon, then the descending colon, moving down the left side of the body, and then the sigmoid colon, which leads into the rectum, and finally the anus. So the colon playing the role mostly of absorbing water from the food, and then finally the rectum storing waste before it is defecated or removed from the body. So here we have our full sculpture. I'd love to see yours. Feel free to email them to Lane Arts Council. It'd be really great to see everybody's digestive system sculptures. I want to take a moment now to close and reflect on this experience of sculpting the digestive system. I want you to sit back, close your eyes for a moment, think about what your favorite part was, what part might have been more challenging for you. And let's take a deep breath together. So feel free to use the rest of your clay to explore maybe the digestive system of other species, other animals. You can also use this clay to sculpt different systems in the body. In the beginning, I talked a little bit about like, what if you sculpted the nervous system? What does that look like? What about the respiratory system? What about the reproductive system? There's so many different systems in the body that the clay can really be used to sculpt and model. And you can really learn a lot from this process of sculpting with the modeling dough, sculpting real parts of the body with your modeling dough. So I hope that you can feel encouraged and excited and inspired to continue sculpting. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. It's been so fun to learn more and to teach this process of using the modeling dough to shape and learn more about the digestive system. So thanks for joining me, and I hope you have a great rest of your day and hope to see you soon.